Half an hour away from the opens. Well, open in Hong Kong. Mainland markets are still shut for Golden Week. You're watching the China Show. I'm Yvonne with David Ingles.
Yeah, let's get to your top stories today. Stocks in Hong Kong in focus with China's stimulus efforts continuing to provide a boost. Now, shares, of course, in Japan rallying, as you can see on your screens right now, on signals from the new Prime Minister and the BOJ governor that maybe rate hikes are not on the table. Right, oil climbing for a third day with traders assessing risks, supply risks specifically, in the Middle East, even as the U.S. seeks to deter Israel from hitting Iran's nuclear sites. And OpenAI raising $6.6 billion in new funding. Investors include Microsoft and also NVIDIA, giving it a valuation of $157 billion.
Happy Thursday to you. Take a look at how the market action is doing here. And things are looking pretty decent here. And really, it's been lifted by Japan, as Dave mentioned there, those comments from the new prime minister about, look, we're not quite ready to hike rates once again. You see that in dollar yen, right? 147 levels. You also add the ADP report that we got out of the U.S. It did show stronger than expected numbers here when it came to the labor market. That really just adds to that dollar yen trade of, the fact that we have a slightly more hawkish Fed and a slightly more dovish Japan right now, talking about maybe they're ruling out the possibility of another hike. So certainly that leads to a double whammy for the yen, helps Japanese equities, and overall equities though are doing okay. Keep in mind that we might mention that Golden Week, we're still underway there. So China is still shut. Taiwan also shut for another day because of the typhoon there, and South Korea also. So you might not see the same sort of volumes here today, but obviously we're watching very closely what goes on. Yields are still ticking a little bit higher here after that stronger data out of the U.S. as well. So that's fueling that dollar trade once again, seeing that stronger dollar as well as what we're seeing across the commodity complex. We're still seeing iron ore, maybe still reaping the benefits of this China stimulus here. Brent, we're up for a fourth straight day against this escalation of Middle East tensions here as Biden is now urging Israel to hold off from attacking Iran's nuclear facilities. So we're waiting for any sort of Israel response to this missile attack from Tehran. Futures in China, look at that. We're up some 2%. Take a look at how the Golden Dragon fared yesterday. And we continue to see this momentum, this breathtaking rally continue, right? Nasdaq Golden Dragon was up another 5% here as well. We're watching very closely the property space because those Hong Kong listed Chinese property developers, wow. The Bloomberg Intelligence Index, what was it? We were surging as much as 50% at one point. You see some of these names like Sunac China was up 150% in just one day alone. There's this assumption, Dave, that once we see the easing of measures in Tier 1, that's going to lead to a bigger recovery in the housing market. So the developers rally the most on record, watching the brokerages as well, just given this sudden surge in activity. Futures, there you go, punching pretty punchy there, up some 2%. And dollar China, a little bit on the weaker side, 704 against the dollar, Dave.
Yeah, at some point the numbers will have to show, right, whether that's earnings or, this Golden Week holiday right now, and we'll really get to see what maybe home purchase activity looks like on the back of some of these easing measures, because at some point, right, so on the stock rally, right, so property stocks, give you a number here, 150% is the rally from the bottom on that Bloomberg gauge. That's obviously one group of stocks we'll be tracking. This rally that we're seeing in Hong Kong in particular, which has taken us to about 22,000, just case in point, the Hang Seng Index, has actually driven funding costs, right, for the Hong Kong dollar, this quote-unquote shortage of Hong Kong dollars right now. So HIBOR's back to, I think, a two-month high. Forward points of the Hong Kong dollar also have picked up from the lows as well. As Yvonne is pointing out, we're still shut on the mainland, so we're not going to get the sort of stock flows across the Stock Connect. Although that being said, even despite the closure of mainland markets, turnover in Hong Kong has been fairly substantial. Some data coming through in the form of retail sales and obviously oil prices on the back of potentially what still and hopefully should not come out of the Chinese mainland. And, of course, what's happening, of course, in the Middle East. Right. And, yeah, lots to talk about, of course, Yvonne, as we look at these Chinese markets, whether that's valuations, are we close to reverting back, or some of these very extreme levels we're seeing as far as momentum goes. I'll give you one. Hang Seng RSI 14-day is at 90. Last time we were at that level was in 1970.
Yeah, so perhaps technically speaking, we're a little bit oversold in this market, but it doesn't seem like things are letting up anytime soon. Let's bring in our senior reporter for equities, Abhishek Vishnoi. And a great story that you guys have written is about just this breathtaking rally, and it's really kind of sucking the wind out of some of these markets that were doing quite well before in Asia, whether it's Japan, Southeast Asia. This rotation, do you think that it has some legs here? And do we have to call the end to this Asia ex-Japan, ex-China, I should say, trade?
Oh, definitely. I mean, this rotation definitely has legs. And why not? China's narrative has gone from being meaningless stimulus to meaningful stimulus. Valuations with vacuum have gone to become valuation with catalyst. So this is a rebound which is driven by macro stimulus, macro hope. And the hope is not just that this is one and done. The hope now, the prices that you see in the market, 150% on the Bloomberg gauge of developers, the hope is that they will do more of such things in the next foreseeable future, in the next few months, if the recovery doesn't take hold. Remember, markets have got very big macro memories. US in 1929 suffered from a depression, and their solution to all problems is to print money. 2013, Modi, before Modi came to power, India was seeing, some sort of lack of fiscal discipline. And now we are seeing a lot of fiscal consolidation happening, even when, more capex would help India. So in China's case, stimulus is coming in. The macro memory is that stimulus, both on fiscal and monetary side, would save us. And that's what investors also expecting. Even after this run, which has taken valuations to average level, a lot of investors are expecting 15-20 percentage points more outperformance from China. Money coming in from markets like Japan and ASEAN. Look, Japan is really an interesting case. A new prime minister, you have your problems with yen because BOJ wants to tighten. And therefore, there would be a rotation of money from that market, Japan, which started commanding its own standalone weight in Asia, to another market, China, which is again commanding a standalone weight of itself in Asia, right? And which is available at about 10-11 times right now on MSCI indexes. ASEAN, that is also looking plausible. You have to start thinking of ASEAN in a way that it's the small cap of indexes. And now the money is moving to large cap to value, which is China.
Abhishek, very quickly, what are you seeing as far as outflows from other Asian markets? To your point there, you have Japan, Southeast Asia, maybe India, you mentioned that too.
That's right, about $20 billion from Japan over a particular period of time. We are also seeing some money coming up this week in ASEAN. India also is seeing some rotation, but remember, India is a very domestic-oriented market, lot of domestic flows. So money that will move away from India would be pocket change. It won't impact the market. But yes, in Japan's case, which is a very global investor-driven market, it will impact the market. In ASEAN's case as well, the last few months have been driven by foreign money. That will impact ASEAN equities. That's the expectation.
All right, Abhishek. Thank you, Abhishek Vishnoi there. We're talking a little more about these on Chinese markets coming up. And of course, still ahead, we'll discuss why Morgan Stanley sees potential for a more sustained rally in Chinese stocks with Laura Wang, Chief China Equity Strategist. She still mentioned that 10% upside, but still, there might be some caveats, too, that we have to look ahead to.
Yeah, there have a lot of questions around, we still don't know about the swap program and, the funding to the equity market, right? So how do you actually quantify and how do you filter out some of the companies that might take advantage of the PBOC swap line? Right. On the valuation story, so we're up 30%, so we're now still below, we're still below historical mean. But as you can see, we've come off, I think, we've been, trading 3 or 4 years below the historical mean. So I guess in some ways, Yvonne, this might represent a process of a reset, as they say.
Yes, a reset. Let's bring in Matt Quaife, Global Head of Multi-Asset Investment Management at Fidelity. He joins us here in our Hong Kong studios. Matt, it's great to have you.
Thank you.
How much longer can I indulge in these low valuations now?
Look, it's quite something, eh? I think what you've seen is that hedge funds and institutional investors have been underweight for a long time now, and then this is policy that is real, and it's targeting the stock market. We know now that policymakers care about the stock market, and we're seeing those underweights being shut. I think there's a bigger question as to whether people then go beyond that, but that's absolutely, this can have huge power given valuations.
Short term, does this rally still have room to go in your view?
I think it can run. Okay. There's a lot of money that still needs to rebalance that area, especially from the global investor side. So we could go further. We know that valuations are still below mean and couldn't run further. So I think from a valuation and technical point of view, this can have more legs. But how far it goes is another question, and how much it goes into earnings is an even bigger question.
Right. And, we were just talking with a reporter out of Singapore that we're seeing outflows from several markets in Asia. How does this get funded? Do we look at Asia? Do we look at some of the big winners in the U.S., for example?
I think some investors had some cash on the sidelines and is putting that back to work because China's joining a party of a Fed that's easing and a world that doesn't look that recessionary. So, put more money back to work. You've just seen that there's some funding out of Asia. I think out of Europe as well, where growth is a little bit softer too.
Yeah, how would I position around this potential reflation story out of China? Do I focus on the stocks specifically? Do I look abroad? Do I look at European stocks exposed to China, or do I look at the commodity complex?
I think the story right now is China. It's because of that technical angle, because of that valuation angle, that's the one there.
Yeah.
But there are some other areas that are a little bit beaten up that you could play. For instance, copper miners, cheap compared to copper. A really good 30-year story, huge in terms of greenification of the world. This is an area where earnings could really come through.
Where are we globally as we move into the thick of the fourth quarter? I mean, the Fed seems intent now to lower rates. It's really the magnitude. So are we set up for a fourth quarter?
Yeah, absolutely. As a Brit, I go for extra time in football, but I'm with you. Everything points to the fact that we're late cycle, but we really don't think there's a recession imminent, and we think that the Fed has room to move. So this cycle can get extended quite a long way. Typically, in that late cycle, you get positive returns on risk assets. You want to be invested, but you get more volatility. It's going to be harder than the last few years. And so as someone who does tactical asset allocation, this is a really exciting time to be a little bit more tactical and be able to put money to work when things are a bit more volatile.
I think a few weeks ago, before this Fed cut, it was a bond market that was sounding all these recession signals, and now we're seeing a bit of a sell-off across government bonds. I mean, is there further to run then that maybe bond traders took this a little bit too far in terms of the global growth concerns?
Well, in this part of the cycle, generally on fundamentals, you'd want to own bonds. But the issue is that if there isn't a recession, it's all in the price. So I think we're going to be bouncing around between 3.5 and 4 here. And the short-term noise is going to be there. But ultimately, unless we get real recessionary signals, we're probably going to be there for a long while. And
the best tactical opportunities in fixed income right now are where?
Well, I think you want to own carry, so you can be more tactical with equities where you've got liquidity, but you want to keep earning some carry. I actually think that, I know the dollar is strong today, but we're in a world which feels like the bottom of the dollar smile. I think you've got Fed easing and growth is okay. And so I think we'll have a slightly weaker dollar world, and that's pretty good for EMFX. You want to own emerging market local currency. I think US high yield in a Fed cutting world is a good place to earn carry as well. And you kind of avoid any volatility around election too there as well.
You mentioned that some of your models are no longer advocating for a pro-risk sort of stance. So you lean more towards the bond market then now versus equities? How are you looking at?
We took a little bit of risk off the table in equities recently from an overweight position, just because markets are doing quite strongly. They're a little bit overbought in some areas, and we want to have that cash on the sideline to put to work when the volatility turns up. But overall, we still own risk assets like emerging market, local currency, high yield, all these carries. So you want to play it between kind of neutral and long, but be a bit more tactical so you can earn some more money.
If recession's not a problem, if inflation's gone away as the primary issue, what's the biggest risk then that you see over the next 6 months?
Well, I think you've got a number of tail risks in the world and policy risks around the world. So it's really that coming through in some unknown at this point.
Okay.
And I think the market has run a long way. We're not at cheap valuations here, so the market can get a little bit spooked by different things going through, or for instance, the gas running out of China eventually after a few months.
You mentioned some of the structural themes that really did well this year, whether it's AI, the like. We saw in August that a lot of money was taken out of that, and people were just taking profits. Should I stay in some of these structural themes, the whole AI story, for the rest of the year, or do you think that it is time to maybe tap out?
Yeah, the AI story is here to stay long term, but I think shorter term there's probably better opportunity in some of the stocks that are sensitive to a rate cutting cycle but haven't done so well in the last few years. So biotech looks like, for instance, in a good position, does very well in rate cutting. The investment cycle looks better there. Real estate, which has had a hard time in certain areas, looks attractive, again, does well generally in this type of environment. So I would put money to work there more, but we're definitely not. We definitely believe the AI cycle is here to stay.
Japan's given us something to talk about today. I mean, you mentioned a strong dollar. The yen just fell about 1% or so yesterday. But how excited or not should I be over Japan?
I think Japan's quite a confused picture for investors at the moment. You've got a lot going on, and then you've also got China going on in terms of flows, in terms of money coming out of Japan, going into China. So I think investors are waiting to see on Japan a little bit in terms of the direction. I do think the yen's more likely to strengthen a little bit more, and that can be a little bit of a headwind for the equities. But there are still some underlying positive drivers for the equities. So it's a bit of a confused picture, and so we prefer to work harder elsewhere.
There we go. Clarity elsewhere. Matt, fantastic. Nice to see you. Matt Quaife there, Global Head of Multi-Asset Investment Management at Fidelity. Right, so going into this opening bell, 14 minutes away, mainland China is still shut. We have trading, of course, here in Hong Kong. It's a beautiful, dare I say, fall.
Finally.
Finally. Not markets, weather, season. This is the China Show. We're live from Hong Kong.
It's Jobs Day, and Bloomberg has the report under surveillance.
Markets pay attention to one thing at a time.
It's all about that wage data.
Wages are stabilizing, and that's good news for the inflation story.
This Friday, Jonathan, Lisa, Anne-Marie, and Mike will bring you crucial data and expert analysis at terminal speed.
Are we losing dynamism in this labor market?
We don't have a jobs problem at the moment.
It all comes down to what the data says.
How important is that payroll data going to be?
The September Jobs Report, Friday on Bloomberg.
I think the oil market has now learned its lessons as well with regard to Chinese oil demand. It will actually wait to see these percolating, translating into actual Chinese crude import figures, actual Chinese end user fuel demand figures, which may take several months and produce a very small bump, if at all. Another thing to keep in mind in China, the decline in demand growth for oil is also a big factor of the move away from oil.
And that was Vandana Hari, of course, who joined us a couple of hours back, founder of energy market intelligence provider Vanda Insights, talking to us about oil demand and intentions, of course, in the Middle East. We'll get to that story in a moment here. Brief look at oil prices currently. So we're up across the futures curve on the front end, in particular on Brent. Our high was 74.75 on it's about 7 cents just below that level at this point. But in any case, of course, higher oil prices this Thursday.
Yep, the Biden administration is calling on Israel not to attack Iran's nuclear sites in retaliation for this week's missile barrage. Let's bring in our news desk editor, Jill Deesa, is joining us now. So what do we know about what Israel might be prepared to do next?
Right, so what the Biden administration is responding to there is this idea of what would be the most extreme scenario in terms of potential retaliation against Iran, the idea that they could attack nuclear facilities. That's not something that Netanyahu has said explicitly, but certainly something that Israeli politicians have floated as a potential retaliation for these recent strikes that Iran launched on Israel. I mean, look, Yvonne, at this point, what we're experiencing here is a pretty dramatic change in the dynamic between Israel and Iran, even just versus, a few months ago back in April. I mean, you recall that when Iran launched strikes against Israel, then Israel responded with some targeted efforts. Now, the idea that we're seeing this conflict sort of spill over into broader, ramifications here. You've got, even just the idea that nuclear strikes could be floated here just really does indicate how serious this has become and how much this may be at risk of escalating.
Do we need I think think we've been asking this question of the possibility of a further escalation from this point in time. And it seems every time we ask that question, the answer seems to be no, and yet here we are. So how do we look at this from a risk perspective now moving forward?
Sure, David. So look, well, what the U.S. is trying to do, as it has been in the nearly a year that we've really seen this conflict unfold in the Middle East, is they're trying to sort of tamp down any threat of escalation. You've had the Biden administration at multiple points, while they obviously support Israel in many ways, is trying to prevent this from spilling over into a broader conflict. I think you could argue, though, that the U.S. has failed in many ways at trying to tamp down a lot of that escalation. You've got some pretty strong comments from Joe Biden now here that you're looking at, but it really does kind of depend on where Netanyahu wants to take this over, the next few days. But look, just over the past few weeks, how much have we really seen unfold in this region? I mean, you've seen, these, incredibly crippling strikes against Hezbollah in Lebanon. You've seen, some of these this incursion into Lebanon by Israel. I mean, this is really, really dramatically escalated. But I think the next few days will really be telling here. You've got Biden meeting with Netanyahu. We'll see what happens from there.
Jill, thank you so much. Jill Desis there, our news desk editor, going into the opening bell, 7 minutes away, and yet again we're looking at some gains. In the early minutes, Hang Seng Index is called higher at 0.2%. HS Tech and dollar China, as you can see on your screens. Just keep in mind that mainland China is still shut today. Plenty more ahead. This is Bloomberg. Okay, I'm losing count now. I think 7th or 8th day. We're looking at gains here on the Hang Seng Index, at least. We're seeing some money get taken off the table here as far as the tech market goes. But, I mean, it's certainly been a cyclical story when you look at some of the names that have been bid up substantially. Some of your brokers, we'll get to that in a moment. Long for property is really one stock. In fact, the best performing stock on the Hang Seng Index from the bottom. I think we're up something like 170%. Something crazy. Now, the stock market rally has also increased demand for Hong Kong dollars, right? So whether that's across the Stock Connect, which is shut today, or from overseas investors, it's driven up funding costs. This is something to watch as well as we move into the thick of this rally still.
Yep, of course, it's still the developers, as you mentioned, are still seeing a pretty good day here, but maybe not as good as yesterday, just given the surge that we saw hitting a record yesterday in the Bloomberg Developers Index. And take a look at what JPMorgan is saying, that the sentiment-driven rally for Chinese property stocks may last for a while, but they're still warning of a high risk in chasing these gains at this level, given these demanding valuations now. Obviously, with the brokerages, they're also doing quite well here as well, given just the strong recovery in retail flows. JPMorgan also saying, turning a little bit more constructive on the outlook for some of these brokerages as well, thanks to the nation's latest policy combo that has lifted market confidence. You see, like Essential China's securities up some 14%. This is Bloomberg. Welcome back. You're watching the China Show. We're kind of on the opens of Hong Kong markets, and obviously we've been talking about these superlatives that continue and the stampede of stock buying when it comes to Chinese assets that seems to be continuing for another day. Mind you, maybe not as crazy as yesterday, but the Hang Seng is still punching another day higher. HSCI, we've been up for 13 straight days, the longest streak since 2018. I think that's also seeing a bit of stall this morning, but 850 futures are still punching quite upbeat here this morning, 703.85 against the dollar, Dave.
Yeah, and suddenly all the bulls are coming out of the woodwork. And, some of the people out there that have, to some extent, not returned our emails over the last 3 years or so are suddenly raising their hands. My inbox is exploding, and you know who you are. And suddenly everyone wants to talk about China. Where were all of you when we needed you?
When we needed you.
Right? You know who you are.
But still come on the show. We want to hear what you want.
I mean, 10% of them did. The other 90% were looking forward, but not looking forward to having you as well. Anyway, again, you know who you are. Hong Kong markets are looking, I mean, who would have thought as well? We'd go from 17,000 to 22,000, right?
What was the costume that you're hitting? We're getting there, right? Your Twitter X poll.
If we end the year at 30,000,
okay,
it's a full gerbil costume.
Hey, it could.
33% from here on.
It's not an impossible thing now.
No, I mean, we covered 33% over 3 weeks.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm game. It's not my decision, though.
Hey.
Right.
Halloween's just a few weeks away.
Some of the best performing stocks, if you're wondering what's led this rally, long for it's a property name, Alibaba Health, JD.com, Uchi AppTech have done exceptionally well. We're seeing some profit taking place, although, as you can see, the developers index is up a further 10% today at the very bottom. Okay, what does it mean for momentum in this market? Hang Seng Index 14-day RSI is now above 90. The last time that happened was a year after, I think, the founding or the inception of the index in 1969. Wow. There we go, 50-year high on this momentum gauge. So in some ways, in many ways, actually, this is quite a historic move up in this equity market rally. Right, from markets, let's turn our attention to eco, because at some point, investors will start looking for a follow-through as far as the economics are concerned. Bloomberg Economics says China's latest stimulus package has ignited hopes for the economy, but the downside risks remain. Let's bring in Chang Shu, of course, here on set with us to talk us through their recent trip. You've taken some notes, and what have you taken note of?
It's very interesting. We really experienced firsthand the swing in sentiment. We were there early. We were in Beijing and Shanghai early in the month, and at that point, people were really losing heart on the kind of drip approach in supporting the economy, and people were not expecting anything. And then suddenly, last week, when we were actually in Beijing and Qingdao, the mood changed very dramatically as the various packages came out, and people started to hope. I must add, these some sort of hyped up expectations. We at some point will come out to say, some expectations are more realistic than others. So it's sort of very interesting. People starting to hope for more measures to support. As you already mentioned, the change in sentiment is already reflected in the markets. Stock markets is going crazy. The RMB is going very strong. And again, in the fixed income market, before the measures came out, investors were piling into the fixed asset markets, and long-term yields were dropping despite the PBOC's quite clear signals that were not happy where the long-term yields were heading. Yeah. But now, after this, they're shifting out, and long-term yields have been rising.
Yeah, there's also these great stories of home buyers, scouting for properties at midnight after those easing measures came into play. You mentioned about the speculations that went wild, whether people are still questioning about how big of a fiscal package we're going to see after the rhetoric that we heard from these meetings. People were talking about trillions of dollars trillions of yuan. Worth. Is that a reasonable number, or should we need to damp down our expectations of how big of a fiscal boost we might see?
Yeah, I think the market should really damp down on the expectations. We do see there are very interesting elements in this round of support. There are cyclical support as well, some structural elements to it. And going forward, precisely as you mentioned, we should see how this will pan out in the coming months. But on the fiscal side, at least by the end of the year, we don't see fresh fiscal stimulus. We have pointed out again and again, it's actually challenging to implement some of the fiscal measures. And this time we clearly saw on our trip the sort of challenges this austerity drives across the private sector as well as public sector. And the local governments find it challenging to come up with good, viable projects, and then private institutions are all are also tightening their belts. And for example, local branches of major banks said they haven't had any client-facing events for a long time because whenever they want to do an event, they get endless questions on where the money goes, how they are going to spend the money. So they end up not wanting to do anything. This sort of austerity drive is prudent from individual institutions' point of view, but collectively, that's still dragging down the overall demand.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good thing that people are now talking, right? We were joking earlier on that now suddenly analysts want to come on the show and talk about China where, you couldn't find any of them over the last 3 years. What do you think, and I think we showed a chart of the 10-year yield, you mentioned fixed income. The yield has picked up from mid-month, and I'm wondering whether the market's starting to discount some level of reflation coming back into the economy. My question is, what do you think we should be watching out for the first signs that some of these measures are starting to work? What will be the indicators to watch here?
Again, I would focus on the fiscal side, how the government spent money. The data so far is that the spending has not been implemented. If we compare back to 2015-16, the economy was not doing great and local governments didn't have enough money, but they kept spending. But this time, both expenditure, both the income and expenditure is done at the local government level. So the local governments will have to be enabled and incentivized to spend again. So we're talking about getting animal spirit back, but I guess the first player to get animal spirit back is local governments at this point.
Chang Shu, thank you. Great insights and color there. Our Asia economist, chief Asia economist at Bloomberg Economics. You take a look at when it comes to what our China brief is. It really is continuing to talk about the economy here and what state media is saying. So they released some initial travel and spending numbers for the current Golden Week holiday. A quick look of what we got. So the official Xinhua news agency is reporting a record. They're talking about a record now number of railway trips on the first day of the week-long holiday. It says more than 21 million trips were made on Tuesday, and that's citing figures from China's State Railway Group. Xinhua also says the railway network is expected to handle 175 million passenger trips during that 10-day travel rush. Meanwhile, cinemas are also reportedly enjoying a holiday tailwind. The Global Times says box office sales topped 800 million yuan, or about $114 million as of Wednesday. Citing data from Maoyan, it says that sales on the first day of Golden Week reached 494 million yuan. That's beating last year's record during that same period, Dave.
Yeah, speaking of consumer spending, so the People's Daily, that's the party's official mouthpiece, has a front-page story on this rollout of consumption vouchers in Shanghai. Now, the article says that the municipal government issued vouchers for catering, accommodation, films, and services effectively here. Now, it says people were quick to seize on the opportunity to use those vouchers, spending them mostly on dining this Golden Week. So I think we have a couple of days left to really get a gauge, but things have picked up, I think, comparatively compared to last year.
It's interesting how people were going into this Golden Week, thinking much more upbeat about the outlook for the Chinese economy, right? I think Angela Hanley, you weren't here when she was talking about what the prospects of could be. And she says, yes, you're going to see some big numbers, which we just reported, just very early days, but maybe average user spend. We could actually start seeing a pickup in that now, just given the sentiment that we've seen in the last few weeks.
Yeah, not a lot of people, and it's very hard to quantify the wealth effect as well, right? So, the last day of trading, the CSI 300 had the best day in something like 15 years, record turnover, and then it was happy birthday China, right? And it's hard to overestimate really the amount of animal spirits that can get unleashed when you have a market that's performing this way going into a holiday, right? And it's not as if people suddenly have money in their pockets. They just feel better, at least mostly speaking. So we'll see what these numbers hold, of course, moving forward.
Yep, coming up, we're going to talk a little bit more about what the business environment is like, really, in particular when it comes to U.S. and how companies based in China are looking at this whole election campaign heating up along with tensions over trade and technology. We have Cameron Johnson from TidalWave Solutions just back from D.C. and joins us next. This is Bloomberg.
Right. Welcome back. 12 minutes into the cash market session, and we are getting some money again and being taken off the table, and unsurprisingly so, given some of the extreme levels we reached on whether that's price or technicals, market breadth. You know, going into today, an RSI of 90 on the Hang Seng Index, 80% of the index was overbought, so you do understand why some money is being taken off the table. Yeah, but at these levels, still 22,000. And you're giggling because I know what you're about to say.
He just came back from a 5-day holiday and he completely missed this rally. And he was really FOMO the whole time, tweeting about it on X. And look what you came back to.
Well, I don't have my phone out to start tweeting. I did all of that. Wasted my holiday, in fact.
He did think about changing it leading up to the weekend. But anyways, you know, there's still plenty to talk about.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, let's talk geopolitics, right? And what this means really for the underlying commercial conditions and economics here. Our next guest is, in fact, just back from Washington, where he's been sharing current American business sentiment in China with lawmakers and think tanks. So let's bring in Cameron Johnson, senior partner at TidalWave Solutions. Cameron, it's very nice to see you. Tell us about your trip.
It's always exciting in D.C., but this year was particularly illuminating. I think in past trips, what you saw is security was at the forefront, but you had other discussions, climate change, people to people, healthcare. But this time, everything is focused on security. The entire apparatus, think tanks, lawmakers, they're all focused around what is national security for the U.S., and now everything is viewed through that prism.
You've been talking a little bit more about what your members are saying. What is their outlook now? I mean, it used to be talking about challenges when it comes to bottom line financials. They're not too upbeat when it comes to the outlook of the Chinese economy. Have sentiment changed in any way in the last few weeks?
In terms of the stimulus?
Maybe the stimulus, election risk, all that too.
The biggest, when you actually look at survey results, particularly from some of the chambers, the top three challenges are geopolitics, particularly the U.S.-China relationship and stability. Second is a slowing economy, and third is domestic competition. To your point, there has been some relief that there is more stimulus now coming, but the next question is, after the holiday, will there be more? For example, will there be a roadmap? The last 25 years, the roadmap was real estate, infrastructure, Disneyland, Starbucks. Are we going to get a more consistent roadmap so businesses know the general directions where to go and we can kind of move forward?
The notion that companies are reducing their footprint. I don't want to use the word pulling out of China, because a lot of these multinationals, while it's been challenging, have maintained their longer-term commitment to the economy. And I'm wondering where you're seeing a reduced footprint. Do you see it coming back? And where do you see it business as usual?
You're right. Businesses are not pulling out. What we are seeing, though, is kind of a drive for supply chain resiliency. Some of that means we're going to put our investment into Southeast Asia, into India, into Mexico. Some of it is we're going to do further assessment on the risk potential in our supply chains. For example, when I was in D.C., a huge typhoon hit Shanghai. Right, and the city was off for a couple of days. So what does that mean in terms of business? So these are now the strategies, and when you actually talk to people in the U.S. about what is the boardroom discussing, it's where are the risks, where are other investments. We're not pulling out of China, we're hunkering down for a bit, but we do need to assess this, particularly in a new environment in D.C. where security is paramount.
How are they looking at the threat of more tariffs that could come out?
So tariffs in the U.S. policy apparatus is now a feature, not a bug. So we're just going to have tariffs for the foreseeable future. There is some debate as to, after the election, would a Harris administration continue on a similar path, but maybe tweak the tariffs a bit? There's an assumption that a Trump administration would really put on more tariffs and export controls. So the understanding is we're going to have tariffs for the foreseeable future. We just don't know what exactly that looks like until the election happens.
I noticed part of your survey suggests that one of the sectors that's doing well is automotive. And I'm wondering, because people think about tariffs and geopolitics, that's immediately the sector that comes to mind. How is that? Square that circle for us.
So automotive isn't just I'm going to sell a car. It's also the entire ecosystem, right? The supply chain, the build out of the suppliers, the technology, the raw materials, the processing. So if you're involved in those areas in China or in the automotive supply chains, you're really good to go. We're seeing more companies supply, for example, BYD and Tesla. Right? We're seeing more companies supply even beyond China's shores. And so automotive overall as a sector is positive. There are challenges for sure in the end sales, but when we actually look at the ecosystem and supply chains, it's overall positive.
You've brought some props. I've just wanted to maybe to see, there's chocolate, Harris and Trump chocolates that you've brought back from the U.S. Why bring this one today, Cameron?
Well, this is kind of a microcosm of, in D.C. anyway, in D.C. gift shops, of how the election's actually running. In the summer, Trump chocolate was taken off, and then the Harris campaign started running, then Harris took off, and now it's very much 50-50. So when I did an informal quiz of the two gift shops I visited last week in D.C., they essentially were selling roughly the same. And so I think overall, this is a microcosm for the election in the U.S. of it really is 50-50 at this point.
How do I need to be thinking about that? What's a sweeter deal for Chinese companies that are looking to the U.S. as a market as well?
I think many Chinese companies think it's just too difficult at the moment. And the reality is when you're in D.C. and you're talking to policymakers about their concerns, it is security. It's data security. It's how do I know if a Chinese firm comes here that they won't send the information back, right? Kind of the TikTok theme. There's also a great concern of Chinese influence in supply chains and what actually that looks at. What risks are presented for a Chinese company, for example, that's in Mexico, supplying into automotive or even other industries that then flow into the U.S. So at the moment, it's just kind of in the too hard pile to move forward until we have a better roadmap after the election.
Are there misconceptions that you have to push back against?
Oh, many misconceptions. I mean, where does one start? I mean, part of it is that a expanding small yard and ever-growing high fence is actually going to slow down what's happening in China. And the reality is it's not. The other is that tariffs are just a tool. It's not an end game. Part of the discussions, of course, were also on strategy. What is the U.S. actually looking for out of China, or particularly business? In the reality, when you talk about supply chains, Chinese firms are all over the world, right? They're integrated with many different supply chains. And you're not going to stop that. And so we're unsure as to, again, where this is actually going. But those are the concerns out of the U.S.
It seems like, though, from what you saw in your surveys, is that people are thinking that the regulatory environment is actually improving in China. Does it help in terms of bringing back investment? Or do you think the geopolitical tensions are still going to drag on outbound?
Geopolitical will be number one. And when you really talk to people, both in country and even in D.C., those who do want to have better relations, who do want to grow business and maybe do investment, geopolitical is just number one. And I'll give you the example. A couple of weeks ago at a Senate hearing, an Intel executive was really hit upon by Senator Josh Hawley about why, as an Intel executive, why does Intel have investments in China? This is now, again, part of the feature in the U.S. system. U.S. business who is either investing or doing large business in China may be called before Congress to justify it. And no executive wants to be sitting there in that situation. So this is also bringing a chill overall to the business community.
Cameron, it's great to have you back here in Hong Kong. Cameron Johnson there, senior partner at TidalWave Solutions. We got plenty more ahead. This is Bloomberg.
Right, welcome back. After we took that very short break, markets are taking a break from this world-beating rally that's now taken this entire Chinese equity universe to top of your year-to-date tables here. So we are seeing a pullback across your big winners like developers, which I think up 40% yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
One day, right? 10% down. Hang Seng is down about 2%, and this pivot back, I guess, to some of the big losers like Japan, for example, on the back of this weakness we're seeing in the Japanese currency.
Yeah, so, it was the new prime minister that really jolted these currency markets, and he was seemingly someone that was supportive of these BOJ rate hikes, and now he's saying, look, they might not need another one this year. So certainly that really roiled what the dollar yen and some of these yen traders were looking at here today. Nikkei 225, though, certainly is benefiting that. We're seeing a rally of more than 2%. You talk about the property side of things, maybe is seeing a bit of a stall, some profit taking here today. Another really key part of the market that has been benefiting from this crazy rally has been the brokerages, right? So given all the strong retail flows that we've seen, let's see how those brokerages are doing here right now. It's a mixed picture, but you're still seeing some decent gains to the likes of China Merchant Securities up some 10% today.
Yeah. One of the stocks that's actually done very, very well, really on the back of this financial theme, was Hong Kong Exchanges, which I think is flat, if not lower, today. I mean, so apart from price, look at turnover and volumes, and turnover, despite mainland China being closed, has been still more elevated than usual here in Hong Kong, which I guess is indicative really of the trading activity that's taken place here, this explosion of interest so far in this Chinese equity market. And we'll see what happens moving forward. I think Morgan Stanley joins us, and they still have an upside call here.
Upside call 10%. That was a few days ago. We'll see how Laura Wang feels and where this rally will go next, but still talks about some near-term hurdles as well. We're going to talk about Asia fixed income as well with JPMorgan. Welcome back to the China Show. Here's a look at the HSI half hour into the session. Just like how the temperature outside is cooling finally, or taking back fall in some way, and really that humidity seems to be fading a bit here. You're seeing that a little bit in these equity markets, just given the heat that we saw for the past few sessions as well. So Hang Seng is lower by about 1.5%. That really has been dragged by the tech index here today, too.
And let's hope that correlation breaks down, because we are moving into the cooler part of this year, and might just be a temporary a pause in this world-beating rally that's really seen Chinese markets at the very, very top of your tables this year. But I guess let's take a massive step back and put this into perspective, right? So the rally we've seen over the last 3 weeks or so took the drawdown from just under 60% from the peak to now we're still down over 40% from the very top. So there's still a long ways to go. And I think the boost, the shot in the arm that markets got, at some point, we'll need to talk about earnings and the economy and the housing market and all these other things will need to fall in place before, of course, we make our way all the way back to the top. But a lot of hedge funds have made a ton of money if they had, of course, some China exposure going into the week of September 12th and 13th.
Yeah, it's the hedge funds, it's the retail sector that is really participating in this rally. Long-only funds, I think you could say it's 50-50 here right now on whether to really go big, or as I think BlackRock's Wei Li said it, they're just a tourist right now in this equity market.
Still.
Not sure if they're going to be there to stay, but at least there's some people sightseeing here. Yeah. You take a look at when it comes to Asia ex-China, and this is what the rest of the market is doing. It's really kind of what Japan is centered on here today, just given that 2% gain on the Nikkei 225. You have a dollar yen that's around 146, 147 levels, thanks to what we heard from the new PM, Ishiba. Maybe a little bit less hawkish, maybe even more dovish than what markets were thinking about. So that certainly has jolted these currency markets here once again. The dollar strength certainly did play out, not just from the Ishiba comments, so from some of the data that we got of the U.S., that ADP report that did show stronger than expected signs of this labor market, as well as we count down to that jobs report on Friday. So yields are ticking higher across the yield curve, treasuries as well. But we're seeing that in fixed income here in Asia as well. Brent is up for a fourth day, so we're seeing that geopolitical risk premium being priced back into this market in some big way the last few days, just given the tensions that we're seeing in the Middle East. We're watching to see what Israel's response is to some of these missile attacks from Iran. Iron ore, though, I mean, it's basically been a pretty good story there. We're still hovering around that 108 level, and futures in Singapore are slightly bid up here this morning. Let's bring in Mark Cranfield, our Bloomberg MI strategist, joining us out of Singapore. So Mark, obviously you've been tracking this equity rally in Hong Kong, and it seems like things have petered out a little bit. But where do we go from here?
Well, I think for old hands like me, we're very excited to see the Hang Seng Index especially come back to life. And if you look at it over a really long-term view, what we're seeing here sets up moves which could take us really quite a long way further, particularly when you consider that the fourth quarter of the year is typically the best period of the year for the Hang Seng anyway. So if you just look over the past decade, we haven't even reached the midpoint yet. That would be something like 24,000 on the Hang Seng Index. So there's a way to go before that. But people also will be encouraged by the fact of how much time in the past the Hang Seng has spent above 30,000. So we've still got potentially a long way. I know the moves have been really extreme and people are getting a bit overexcited. But of course, the reasons are quite sensible here. You've got the PBOC in China plus the government all pulling in the same direction at the same time. It's a fairly unique set of circumstances. And valuations, as many people have been telling you, are historically very low on both China and Hong Kong indices as well. So that certainly gives you a lot more enthusiasm for doing this. And then you're getting external help as well. The Federal Reserve is lowering interest rates. Might not be exactly at the pace that the market is looking for, but they will come down. And you've got the Saudis trying to reduce oil prices as well. So there's the conditions, the macro conditions are ideal for anybody who's looking for catch-up trades. And obviously places like Hong Kong are one of the places where global investors would see relative value compared to the rest of the world in there. So in that sense, even though these moves in the past week have been pretty sensational, in a historical context, it suggests that the Hang Seng especially has got quite a way to go before it reaches any kind of extreme level.
Yeah, I mean, Mark, the notion that this is simply a process of resetting, whether that's valuations or the massive underweight that global investors, have receded as far as their exposure to China. How are you thinking about, that process, right? Are we still in that process, Mark?
Oh, definitely. I mean, if you think of what's really happened since about 2021, really since then, global investors have pulled back from China significantly. They pulled back in two ways. On an emerging market basis, because China was a large part of the emerging market index, and they're viewing it as something they didn't want to have too much exposure to on an EM view. And then on a global view, people also reducing exposure and going to other parts of the world, particularly the United States and Europe. So just the fact that people need to get back to anything like a neutral level on China, they probably haven't even reached that yet when you consider for how long they've been out of the market. And that massive decline that we saw for about 4 years in the Chinese markets, that would have really sucked out most of the foreign money out of China. So we're coming from a very, very low base. What makes it even more exciting for people who are looking on a macro view is that US markets are relatively expensive. There's been a tremendous run there. We're coming towards a season that could be a bit unpredictable, US elections. The Fed is lowering rates, but maybe they need to justify that because the US economy is coming to a lower level. So it certainly is a time when people will be thinking about other parts of the world. Where else can we invest away from the US? And it's all starting to focus on Asia, particularly on Hong Kong and China.
And there's more to talk about in Japan as well, Mark. Just given those comments from Ishiba, I mean, we saw the biggest drop in 2 years in the yen once he signaled a little bit more dovishly that maybe the BOJ might not need another rate hike anytime soon. What does this leave us for dollar yen right now? Are we getting closer to 150 or 140 levels?
Foreign exchange traders think that Christmas came early. They can't believe their luck here. In the past 24 hours, so much has changed. When people knew that Ishiba had won the contest at the end of last week, his track record suggested that he supported the Bank of Japan to raise interest rates and to raise them fairly soon. He's done a complete U-turn in the past 24 hours, and Governor Ueda has backed him up by similarly dovish comments. So now, here we are, relatively early in October. Foreign exchange traders had pretty neutral positions on dollar yen. They've been told that there's very little chance of the Bank of Japan changing interest rates now this year. Both the October and December meetings now look as though there's a very, very high bar for any policy change. So Japanese rates are going to stay down. At the same time, people are having question marks over how fast the Federal Reserve is going to lower interest rates. And you look at the momentum here is you're coming from a position where dollar yen had already fallen quite a long way. So if you're thinking of where can you make a quick change in direction, then dollar yen is a key candidate here. You've got 150 approaching. Some people are talking about 155. And the election itself in Japan doesn't happen until the end of October. You've got a long runway. You're early in the profit month. You've got a couple of weeks to play with. There's a Bank of Japan meeting where they're going to be on hold in October as well. All the conditions are falling into place for dollar yen to suddenly be the most attractive play for people to think about in the foreign exchange world. That gives it a lot of potential upside.
Mark, thank you. Mark Cranfield there, our MLive strategist in Singapore for us. You can follow, by the way, more on what's happening across these markets on our Markets Live blog. Check it out. I think this is what Mark was just talking about. They're maybe borrowing some of the spirit coming out of Bon Jovi, Living on a Prayer. We're halfway there, almost, on the Hang Seng Index. Check it out, MLive Go, Market Rundown, one-click, commentary analysis from Bloomberg expert editors. Find out what's affecting your investments right now.
Coming up next, though, we have Laura Wang, Morgan Stanley's chief China equity strategist, joining us on why they see Beijing stimulus primarily boosting the A-share market. We have more on their strategy in a moment. And what's next? This is Bloomberg.
It's Jobs Day, and Bloomberg has the report under surveillance.
Markets pay attention to one thing at a time.
It's all about that wage data.
Wages are stabilizing, and that's good news for the inflation story.
This Friday, Jonathan, Lisa, Anne-Marie, and Mike will bring you crucial data and expert analysis at terminal speed.
Are we losing dynamism in this labor market?
We don't have a jobs problem at the moment.
It all comes down to what the data says. How important is that payroll data going to be?
The September Jobs Report, Friday on Bloomberg.
Okay, this is something we don't normally see, at least recently. The last 3 weeks have been almost a daily grind higher. So some money is being taken off the table following the spike in stock prices recently. JPMorgan just came out with a note here as it pertains to property. And we'll talk more about this later, but they're signaling caution here given the rally we've seen, a 40% rally just yesterday alone. Right. All that being said, though, it's catapulted this Chinese equity market to the top of the global standings this year, from almost in last place to first at the very top. The MSCI China is now up over 30% year to date. Compare that where we are, of course, with the all-country index. As you can see, this outperformance is giving investors notice.
Yeah, let's bring in Laura Wang, chief China equity strategist at Morgan Stanley. Laura, I'm sure it's been a really busy week or two for you. Can you tell us a little bit more about what client conversations have been? How busy has it been for you?
It has been extremely busy for us, and I'm sure the same thing has happened with you and Dave. Basically, we've been talking to thousands of investors over the course of last week. Those include onshore investors, Hong Kong-based investors, China specialists, and global asset allocators from all different regions. I think a lot of the measures announced by PBOC and from the surprise Politburo meeting are quite unprecedented in terms of the format or in terms of the scale. And this has been driving the market very excited.
I'm curious then, how much fresh interest have you guys gotten so far from your clients from overseas, foreign investors that have largely stayed away from this market? Have you seen a pickup in interest?
We definitely have seen a major pickup in interest in terms of the incoming calls, requests, the webcast attendance, and all different type of data. That being said, I think in terms of fund flows and positioning, we're still at very early stage. If you look at the passive data, we see that global passive funds are moving very fast, but in terms of the total magnitude of inflow, it's still quite insignificant. The data that we track shows that there's probably less than $10 billion of a passive inflow. It's happening very fast. It shows up as an almost vertical line of inflow into the China market. But again, given the very short duration and how fast things have been moving, the amount itself is still in early stage and relatively insignificant. significant. And the more fundamental long-term investors, I think, again, they are not yet being able to participate, but we see a very rapidly rising level of interest in terms of calls, trying to understand the details of the policies, any potential change on the outlook of the economic growth and on corporate earnings, and what sectors and components of the market could potentially be benefiting. So I think a lot of research is being done, a lot of debates are happening.
Yeah, and as you say, given how fast this market has turned, it's hard to chase some of this, Laura. How do you compare this rally to the previous pivot rallies we've seen? I mean, people have likened this to maybe the 2015 bubble that, boom and burst. Some have also said maybe this is very reminiscent of the COVID reopening we saw maybe a few years ago. How would you compare it right now, Laura?
Right. There's a lot of comparison versus the previous cycles, but I think focus on this specific cycle is very important. We see a few legs to the current round of rally. The first leg is a very straightforward upside suggested by a very straightforward arbitrage opportunity between the lending cost PBOC was promising to those who want to tap into their lending facilities to buy the stocks versus the dividend yield offered by the market. And we did this analysis last week, and we were telling investors that there is around 10 to 15% upside surprise suggested just by this simple arbitrage opportunity. And let me emphasize, this first leg of the rally has already been fully priced in by the market as of now. And now we are actually in the middle of the second leg, which is after the surprise Politburo meeting last week. I think the expectation for further more aggressive physical expansion is back on the table. So now investors are, again, for the very first time in a very long time, looking at China through a reflationary or inflationary lens instead of a deflationary lens. And the last time investors were looking at China through that lens was actually at the beginning of last year, post-COVID reopening, as you were mentioning. And back then, the valuation global investors were willing to give China was around 12 times forward PE for MSCI China. And as of yesterday's close, MSCI China actually closed at 10.8 times forward PE. So as more fiscal expansion efforts are being announced in the coming weeks, as we expect, if they do come across, then I think a further re-rating opportunity, which is implied by that difference between 10.8 times versus 12 times, it's suggesting another 10 to 15% upside is still likely. But to go beyond that level, which I call as a third leg for the rally, that still remains a big question mark. We need the corporate earnings to come along. We need the corporate earnings downward revision to stop, and we see re-acceleration of earnings growth and more re-acceleration of the macro growth, particularly on the nominal side.
Yeah, and Laura, it's going to take a few quarters, as you know, for us to really get a lot of data on that. I want to ask you about what a lot of analysts have told us was perhaps the biggest catalyst among the many measures that they announced recently, this almost unlimited swap program to brokers and companies to then buy back their stock. I want to ask you, what do you think about that program, and what do you think we still do not know about that program to determine the efficacy of that measure?
We do think that both programs, the swap facilities and the re-lending program, both will be fully funded by PBOC, are unprecedented. These formats have been unheard of, and the amount, even though the initial stage promises 800 billion RMB in total for the two programs combined, PBOC governor did promise unlimited funding if the initial quota turns out to be insufficient. So we think this definitely signals how strongly the policymakers feel about stabilizing the stock market, building a more healthy environment and dynamics for the institutional and retail investors to, on the long-term basis, benefit from a healthily growing stock market. I think, as I said, it does suggest a lot of upside for companies who actually already paying relatively high dividend yield, because they can tap into this relending program to buy back their own shares and enhance shareholder returns. And this can also serve as a major motivation effort for companies to actually think along this line and try to do more shareholder return enhancement activities. And this will help nurture a long-term beneficial environment for institutional investors to consider.
Is that why you prefer more the A share market over H? That maybe we could see that this program, this swap facility, can benefit the domestic market more so than Hong Kong? I mean, your peers at Goldman Sachs, I believe, you're still preferring the H over A because they still think that the Fed easing could actually benefit Hong Kong a little bit more. But what's your case?
We actually think both the onshore Asia market and the offshore Hong Kong market can benefit quite significantly from all these measures announced so far. I know that these relending programs or swap facilities are potentially more targeted at Asia market specifically. That being said, I think global positioning by investors in Chinese equities, and particularly through the format of positioning in ADRs and Hong Kong shares, has been extremely low. Our data shows that on average, largest global long-only funds are somewhere between 3 to 4 percentage points underweight China. And a lot of that underweight positions are expressed through positions in Hong Kong and through ADRs. And with the Fed rate cut cycle kicking off, and with some of these uncertainties in other geopolitically escalating situations, and with our Morgan Stanley's view that Asia tech is potentially taking a slowdown path from here, I think there could be some asset reallocation that potentially benefit the Chinese equities and for Hong Kong and ADR space, as well as for the Asia market in general.
And Laura, how does that translate into sector picks, for example? So you mentioned A and H shares, some of the, on a company basis, companies that are able to then give out dividend yields, for example. Are there specific sectors that stand out to you as perhaps markets can be more bullish on more than others?
Exactly. So as I was talking about earlier, I think we are in this second leg when global investors are trying to give China a valuation through a reflationary lens. And if this reflationary story can really pan out, if China can successfully break out of the debt deflation loop that's been basically dragging China's growth and investor sentiment for a very, very long time, then I think stocks with exposure to reflationary trend should highly benefit. And this refers to consumer stocks. I'm not just talking about consumer discretionary or the traditional consumer staples, but stocks with exposure to the broad consumption theme. I'm talking about e-commerce, internet names, and even company capex related items that used to be cut back because of very dimming macro outlook. And we are expecting companies to potentially expand their expenditure on these fronts as well. But I think we need more policy follow-throughs to confirm that path, that direction forward. And at this stage, I think investors are still expressing themselves through these directly consumption-related sectors.
Real quickly, Laura, should I touch the property sector right now?
I think as an equity investor, particularly if you are an institutional investor managing a relatively sizable portfolio, thinking about allocation from a global and regional perspective, property sector may not be that that attractive from a risk-reward perspective. I'm talking about this because as an equity investor, you think about valuation, and you need to deal with a benchmark. Property as an equity investment sector, it has become extremely tiny. Within MSCI China, property sector is less than 5% of the entire index weight, but it has been very, very volatile, to be honest with you. So I think, I still want to look for high-quality stocks with much certain trajectory in terms of earnings recovery, in terms of future shareholder return enhancement activities. And we need more details to come around to confirm the future path of property sector, and particularly importantly for the property market. For the time being, we have seen some purchase restriction relaxation across the tier 1 cities, but we need more decisive measures to expedite the clearing out phase of the excess inventory in the housing market. And that's not just related to tier 1 cities, but that's related to all different tiered cities. So we need more forceful measures to ask local governments to tap into the re-lending program to help clear out the inventory. Otherwise, without further extra effort on these fronts, we are seeing a potential clear out schedule, not next year, but actually sometime in 2026. We want to see expedition of that effort, which could potentially move the timeline to sometime next year. And that could be a major positive. But for now, we are still waiting for the policy details for that to be confirmed.
Sure.
Fantastic. Laura, thank you so much, and we appreciate the time. Laura Wang, Chief China Economist, Chief China Equity Strategist, rather, at Morgan Stanley. Plenty more ahead. This is Bloomberg. Right, welcome back to the show. About an hour into the session, I cannot think of a more perfect example of profit taking than the price action we're seeing today. So on the Hang Seng Index, most stocks are down. The stocks that are down the most were the stocks that were up the most over the last 3 or 4 weeks or so. And those that are seeing a bit of a pickup, the very few power assets and CK infrastructure, are your underperformers. So that's the case in points. Plenty more ahead. This is the China Show.
.29 a.m. in Tokyo. Japanese markets are heading to the lunch break, and there's plenty to think about here, just given those comments that we saw from the new Prime Minister Ishiba. Is he actually more aligned with the BOJ governor, Ueda? Both were signaling some pretty dovish comments overnight, talking about, man, maybe Japan not ready for another BOJ hike as well. You're seeing that in dollar-yen.
I'm not ready for one.
The pain trade, as Mark Cranfield said, is 150 levels, maybe even 155 for dollar-yen in the next few days or weeks or so. So certainly that is benefiting at least the equity market. We're up some 2% on the Nikkei 225.
Yeah. So if it's not the BOJ, well, there's always the Fed part of the conversation to talk about right now. So I think traders are still split on, it's a November 8 or 9 meeting that's coming up. I think 33 basis points out of 25 is price. I think we get to about 40 to not 50 basis points. But anyway, how deep the cycle will get.
I mean, just last week it was 44 basis points are being priced in.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a bit of repricing here just since those Powell comments that came out earlier this week.
Yeah, because with the ADP numbers coming out, and of course the jobs report is coming out as well. And, you know, we might just actually be in a situation where, well, for one, there is no landing, and it's a softer landing than most people expect it to be. The other big story, of course, is what's happening with China, right? And the stuff that China has been announcing, might that be, I guess in some ways, forcing markets to reprice some level of reflation that wasn't there about a month back. I think we have a board here which just shows us the performance year to date of fixed income. I think you have an all aggregate, you have high yield as well. And then within this, of course, it's not as obvious as the inflows coming back into the Asia Pacific as well, with some of the benchmarks here in the region doing quite well. So do we chase the rally in Asia? How do we think about fixed income at this point in the cycle? Let's bring in Julio Callegari, Asia Fixed Income CIO at JPMorgan Asset Management. It's nice to see you, Julio.
Nice to see you again. Thank you.
So we've had a terrific time recently, not this year so far, in Asia Fixed Income. What do you think is behind that, and do you think the dynamics continue?
Yeah, it's very likely that we'll continue in our view, because first we have the Fed cuts going on. And this is definitely generally good for fixed income. But on top of that, another reason, and you just alluded to, is that we are having, this at the margin, good news out of China, finally, which is something that we think will be really supportive for the Asia high yield. It's sort of a disliked rally because we don't think that investors are really participating. People are really skeptical that this was a good way to be positioned, and actually it's showing that it is.
So you're how should I look at high yield now in Asia? Do I still exclude the whole China real estate side of things? And how much could spreads continue to tighten, I guess, from here?
Right. Yes. So even if you exclude the China real estate, the Asia high yield, you still have something like almost 200 bips, so almost 2% pickup versus the DM, or the developed market high yield. So it's still a nice spread. And what I think it's important to emphasize here is that with China, on the verge of adding additional stimulus, this is increasing the conviction that Asia should outperform DM fundamentally. So this tends to be a good story for the high yield. And when you combine, the good fundamental story plus an additional pickup in spread, so we have the key conditions for additional outperformance.
I think you guys nailed it on the head. If we exclude China, it's already good.
Yeah.
Should we exclude China at this point is my point. We've seen a massive rally in, say, Chinese property developers in the equity market. We've seen high yield also pick up substantially. Are there opportunities right now that, up until 3 weeks ago, should not have been on the plate for investors to consider that now probably are?
Right. Yeah. I think China is just adding to the momentum that was reasonably good for Asia. And now, differently from the past in which people were just seeing downside coming from China, now actually we should say that at least it's two-sided, right? With a decent chance that there will be more fiscal stimulus in particular, and this could add momentum. So, for example, what is showing is that you have additional opportunities related to China, be it related to convertible bonds in which you can capture the upside of equities, or if this momentum keeps going, at least you have the good quality of the China real estate, which is still very juicy and can also benefit of a more benign story coming out of China.
What about rates in China? I mean, we've seen CGB. This melt up that we've seen.
Yeah.
Is that sustainable?
Well, that will really, depends on the magnitude of the fiscal support. At this juncture, we closed most of our positions in CGBs because, has been a very good year. The rally, went perhaps too far from what the policymakers would like to see. And if, we get the decent stimulus, which we think we should, so it's quite possible that from here, CGBs will be more in a range bound. So we don't see, a very compelling story to be long yet. If the support is disappointing in the end, which for us, disappointing meaning it means essentially nothing really supporting consumption and real estate. If everything goes again only on the supply side, the market will probably be disappointed, and this would be a reason to re-engage on the CGB duration again.
Just to broaden it back out to the Asia-Pacific story, and looking at next year, can we still assume that supply will keep spreads tight?
Well, yes, it's very likely because, even though we may see some additional supply, on a relative basis versus what we've been seeing for a long time in DM, will still be relatively weak supply, which would be good. But we think that on top of that, the additional story is really a fundamental one, in which Asia is really outperforming from here. And again, just reinforcing even more this path is with the Fed easing, this, as we are seeing, is opening room for central banks in the region to ease as well, right? So we already saw in some countries like Indonesia, and we think we'll soon see more, for example, in Korea, etc. So we have a very broad context in which China doing better, central banks easing. Most of the countries in the region have a fundamental story that is good. So you put together and you have a very benign outlook on a relative basis.
Yeah, it really depends on what the Fed's going to do in some ways, too. I'm just wondering, the market narrative seems to be, is it 25 or 50 now? How far do you think rates can actually go down in the U.S.?
Well, it's true that the market's already pricing a lot, right? If we look at the curve, you see that, for the end of next year, beginning of 2026, you already have the Fed funds at 3 or below.
Yeah.
So we don't think that rates necessarily will go much further down from there. But I think what's most important thing is that even if we see the Fed walking, on the curve, this is good enough for most of the Asia central banks because we'll definitely open room for easing here.
Very, very quickly, inflation is no longer an issue. What's the risk then?
Well, definitely the key issue is still how fast is this slowdown in the labor market, right? So this is going to set the tone for the Fed for sure. And finally, we have the wild card of elections in U.S. and what comes next in terms of fiscal stimulus there. So this is something that the investors will definitely be paying attention here.
All right, Julio, thank you. Julio Callegari there, CIO of Asia Fixed Income at JPMorgan Asset Management, joining us here. Coming up, we'll discuss OpenAI's new $157 billion valuation after it raised more than $6.5 billion in a new funding round. We have details coming up. This is Bloomberg. Well, OpenAI has completed a deal to raise $6.6 billion in a new funding round. And this latest one takes the AI company's valuation, and get this, close to $160 billion. For more, let's bring in our tech reporter, Annabelle Jewelers. Yeah, I think you take a look at that number. It just goes to show OpenAI is now truly one of the most valuable startups in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're putting it alongside the likes of SpaceX, for instance, or ByteDance, the parent of TikTok. But yes, it's just another signal to us how much the tech industry really believes in the power and the future of AI. But some of the key details in this, so the funding round was led by Thrive Capital, which tipped in about $1.3 billion. Microsoft as well, they've been the biggest backer to date. We're hearing from sources they contributed about $750 million of the $6.6 billion. Other high value or high well-known ones include Coastal Ventures, Tiger Global. In Asia, there's been SoftBank, for instance. We had reporting that they were looking at handing over $500 million. Masayoshi Son's just been on stage. He didn't say anything about that, but he doesn't typically announce any sort of deals during those presentations either. Still, a lot of different ones in the mix, and really it's that question of how is OpenAI planning to use the cash. And what we're hearing is that they're looking at funds going toward AI research, also scaling up their computing capacity. Certainly a really big valuation, though.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it a little bit too high?
Depends who you talk to, actually. Yes. And one person who would say it's too high is the well-known MIT professor, Daron Acemoglu, who has spoken to Bloomberg and given an interview basically saying that these sky-high valuations that we're seeing in AI right now aren't really substantiated. So if you take a look at where stock valuations, for instance, are at, and you look at this chart here, I mean, the line in white is NVIDIA. You've got in blue and yellow, that's Meta and Broadcom. The line in purple is the S&P 500, and US stocks have still done well, but they've obviously been far outpaced by their peers in their tech space. What Acemoglu is saying is that really only in the end of it, about 5% of jobs are going to be displaced by AI. And of course, every single industry has been looking at job disruption. So 5%, he's saying that this is not going to be something that just is sort of brings on or unleashes a new wave of productivity or completely transforms our lives. What he's saying is that you've got the AI story looking at three different scenarios. So the first is the hype cools slowly over time. The second is that the frenzy builds for another year or so, and then that leads to a tech stock crash eventually. In the third scenario, that mania goes unchecked for years. You've got AI or bosses at big companies pouring a lot more money into AI. They eventually get rid of workers. That doesn't work out when they realize that the AI technology doesn't do what they thought it would do. And so what is the most likely scenario? Acemoglu is saying a combination of 2 and 3, but broadly you could be looking at some widespread economic issues. So yes, certainly a note of caution, especially when you stack it up against the latest round for OpenAI.
Annabelle, thank you on the latest on what we're hearing here. Just some breaking news that's crossing your terminal here right now on the former transport minister of Singapore. So we are learning that he is going to be sentenced to 12 months in jail after he did just last week plead guilty to bribery and obstruction of justice. So this is just coming through right now. And this prison term for the ex-minister is in fact the first we've seen from a person of government, I guess, since 1975. So this is something that we haven't seen for some time. But yes, now we're getting a little more details on that sentencing here. 12 months, 1 year in jail. Dave.
Yeah, the first ex-minister specifically there in Singapore to receive a prison term. He's 62, so he'll be out when he's 63. Okay. Chinese automaker XPeng is looking at several options here to produce more of its cars in Europe. Now, that's ahead of an unexpected EU vote on definitive tariffs on Chinese EVs. The vice chair and co-president, Brian Gu, tells Bloomberg that they're looking at contract manufacturing and working with existing plants.
I think as a company, I feel like we have to be prepared to deal with whatever happens in this market. That means that maybe we have to think about our pricing, think about our product strategy, think about our business model to deal with such changes. All that I think are something we have to think through as a company.
And have you had any dialogue with sort of officials? Are you hearing anything from them in terms of kind of the approach?
Well, I think we do not hear anything more from what you hear in the market. I think we're obviously waiting to hear the final results of the vote. But I think we see what's coming, and as a company, I think we have plans to deal with whatever comes our way.
Right, and one of the questions I think that this naturally leads to is thinking about local production, getting within the sort of tariff wall, if indeed they come to pass. Is that something that you're looking more seriously at? And if so, are there sort of locations that seem to you more favorable at the moment within the EU and the trade barriers?
Well, I have to say, being more local is not because tariff. It's not only because tariff. Because as a company has aspired to be a leader in a market like Europe, we have to think about becoming more local. We have to have more local team to build our local brand, and also have more local presence. And also, you cannot rely on export-only strategy to deal with a local market like such a big market like Europe. So having manufacturing options is something I think in the long run will always gonna be necessary. But what form does it take? What timetable does it take? Obviously, it's something that we need to deal with.
Are you beginning to think about where it might make sense? Have you spoken to officials? Are there places that are making it kind of welcoming for you to consider creating operations there locally?
Well, we are looking at multiple options, ranging from contract manufacturing to working with existing plants, or even thinking about plants. But those are, I would say, still very preliminary. At the same time, I think it's also something that as a young company, we need to understand better before we act.
And do you think that kind of flipping the model that happened in China, where you had joint ventures with Western automakers going in there, do you think you could see something like that happening in Europe? Because I also think obviously you have that partnership with Volkswagen. Could you kind of flip that partnership over here in Europe?
Well, I think it's all on the table because I think as a company try to develop local presence, having partner is a must. I don't believe in acting alone. So just like what China market has illustrated, having strong partners locally allows you navigate some of the local difficulties and also provide efficiency as someone. So these are all options that we're examining.
Do you think that the U.S. market will ever be open to XPeng, or is this something that is so far in the distance that you don't even really think about it?
Well, U.S. market is a very important market. It's one of the largest EV markets, and also I think it's also a market that's ripe for technology innovation. But at the time right now, I think the policy is evolving and also making it challenging for Chinese companies to enter. So we're looking at it very closely, but we're not taking near-term decisions.
Right. Do you think that a President Kamala Harris would make that more likely, potentially, down the line? Or do you see both candidates as kind of having the same impact in terms of kind of being able to do business for a Chinese company in the U.S.?
Well, we don't have a view on who is the right person or the policies, but I think we'll work with whatever policies that come along.
XPeng Vice Chairman and Co-President Brian Gu there speaking with Bloomberg's Oliver Crook in Berlin. Here are some of the other stories that we're following for you, particularly in the auto sector today. Tesla has posted its first increase in quarterly vehicle sales this year, but investors were expecting more when it came to after China boosted those EV subsidies. Deliveries rose 6.4% on year, but just fell short of the average estimate. The news coincides with rising expectations for an event next week when Tesla will unveil unveil prototypes of its much-awaited robo-taxi. U.S. sales for Stellantis plunged 20% last month. That's the fifth consecutive decline. The automaker has been struggling to tame bloated inventories amid high interest rates and softening consumer demand. U.S. sales in the period were just over 305,000. That's the lowest since the company was formed from that 2021 merger of Fiat Chrysler and France's PSA Group. Toyota is delaying the production of its first U.S.-made electric vehicle until 2026. A spokesman says the start date for building a battery-powered SUV in Kentucky has slipped by a few months from the original target date of late next year. The Japanese giant also says it plans to sell as many as 7 all-electric vehicles in the U.S. within the next 2 years. We got plenty more ahead. This is Bloomberg. Welcome back to the China Show. Here are some of the big stories we're following from around the world this morning. And we start with Israel, where President Biden says he does not support Israel attacking Iran's nuclear facilities in retaliation for this week's missile barrage. Biden says he plans to speak with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as the U.S. and its G7 allies plan further sanctions on Iran. Israel has defied warnings from Washington against a ground incursion into southern Lebanon, and U.S. calls for a Gaza ceasefire. The U.S. Central Intelligence Agency is boosting efforts to recruit Chinese citizens. The agency hopes to capitalize on what officials say is growing discontent with President Xi Jinping. The CIA has issued Chinese language instructions on social media, detailing how people can securely contact it on its public and dark websites. The move comes as Washington struggles to gain insights on Xi's inner circle. Canada says it's working with Nordic countries to create a new Arctic security coalition. Foreign Minister Melanie Joly told Bloomberg that the talks are needed because the Northern allies don't meet at a political level anymore, partly due to Russia's presence on the Arctic Council. Joly says the Russian-Ukraine war and China's interests in the far north are now a new reality for Canada. All right, take a look at markets here right now. We talk about that sort of air being blown out of some of these Chinese assets here today in the property sector. That's where you're really feeling it. So a massive amount of profit taking, I guess you could say, after the run up we've seen in these property developers here. Shermel Property is down some 27% as well. Same goes for Sunac China. But mind you, yesterday, I think Sunac China was up like triple digits at one point, I feel. So I think, things were looking a little bit too extreme maybe at this point.
Yeah, in fact, as of yesterday, JPMorgan, and we can talk about the call out of Morgan Stanley, Laura Wang, who joined us a few minutes back, also echoing that same call that you see on your screens, out of JPMorgan, warning of effectively the risk of chasing this rally. So there is the process of this mean reversion and really how some of these stocks have been trading at extremely distressed levels. Now, that said, it's been 3 weeks, and obviously we've yet to see any follow-through as far as some of the data is concerned. In fact, JPMorgan just said profit-taking will happen when the scale of the fiscal stimulus, if any, is less than expected. So most investors expect the party to be over around mid to end October or first few days of October. We'll see what happens as far as this is concerned. I think Laura Wang out of JPMorgan Stanley echoed this and said there are other clearer ways to express your bullishness around China outside of the property sector.
Yeah, I mean, just given the weight that property has on MSCI China, she says that it's about 5% now. It doesn't really matter if you're one of those people that are looking at being the benchmark. So certainly maybe it's hard to chase these rallies, as many have said, just given how swift and how quickly it has been, especially for those long-only funds that are looking at whether to go back and being bullish on this market. You take a look at how the HSI is doing here today. And yes, we mentioned just now, it's really the winners that are now the losers today, right? If you take a look at the property stocks, the brokerages, for example, those were the key sort of the ones that were really just rallying the party was continuing on. Today, it seems like there's a bit of a hangover feeling, I guess you could say. So that's why you are seeing the Hang Seng down some 3.5%.
Yeah, and even if it is down 3.5%, we're still up over 2 days. In fact, at these levels, this basically takes us back to levels as of 10 a.m. yesterday, which is pretty much where we are right now. So we haven't quite reversed all those losses as well. But it is a continuing story, of course, and if Laura Wang at Morgan Stanley is correct, we are in the initial stages of pricing inflation back in to this Chinese market. That's it from us here on The China Show. See you all tomorrow.